I never imagined that the coldness in my daughter's eyes would lead me to the darkest secret of my life. The first time Sarah refused to hug me. I told myself she was just going through a phase. She was 7 years old, and children that age can be moody, unpredictable. But when weeks turned into months, and months stretched into years, I began to wonder what I had done to deserve such hatred from my own child. Now, at 68 years old, sitting in my small apartment surrounded by photographs of a daughter who barely speaks to me, I finally understand. The truth came 40 years too late. But it came nonetheless, brutal, devastating, and absolutely unforgivable. My name is Margaret Walsh, and this is the story of how I failed my daughter in the most fundamental way a mother can fail her child. Not through malice, but through blindness. Not through cruelty, but through trust misplaced in the one person I should have questioned. It started so innocently, or so I thought. Robert and I married when I was 23. Young and foolish and desperately in love. He was handsome, charming, with a steady job at the manufacturing plant and a smile that made me feel like the only woman in the world. We had Sarah 2 years later, and for a brief shining moment, I believed we were the perfect family. I worked the night shift as a nurse at County General Hospital. The pay was better, and Robert worked days. So we reasoned that one of us would always be home with Sarah. It seemed like the responsible thing to do. We were saving money, building a future. I was so proud of our little arrangement. How could I have been so blind? Sarah was a bright, giggly toddler who loved to dance and sing. She would wait by the window for me to come home each morning, her face pressed against the glass, and when she saw my car, she'd run to the door with her arms outstretched. Those were the good years before everything changed. The shift happened gradually. So slowly that I didn't recognize it as the emergency it was. First, Sarah stopped waiting by the window. Then she stopped running to greet me. By the time she was 7, she would barely look at me when I walked through the door. "She's just tired," Robert would say, shrugging. "You know how kids are in the morning?" But it wasn't just mornings. Sarah pulled away from me at every opportunity. She flinched when I tried to brush her hair. She found excuses to avoid being alone with me. At bedtime, she would ask for her father, never for me. "Daddy reads better stories," she'd say, her voice small and distant. I felt the rejection like a physical wound. What had I done? Was I working too much? Was I too strict? Too lenient? I read parenting books, consulted with other mothers, even spoke to Sarah's teachers. Everyone said the same thing. Some children just bond more with one parent. Give her time. So I gave her time. Years and years of time, watching helplessly as the gulf between us widened into an ocean. Robert, meanwhile, seemed to thrive in his role as the preferred parent. He took Sarah to the park, helped with her homework, attended every school event. I told myself I should be grateful at least she had one parent she trusted. At least she was happy with someone. But she wasn't happy. I can see that now. The signs were all there. Screaming at me in a language I didn't understand, Sarah became withdrawn around age 9, spending hours alone in her room. She developed nervous habits, picking at her nails until they bled, pulling out strands of her hair. She had nightmares that left her screaming in the night, though she would never tell me what they were about. "Just bad dreams," Robert would say, calming her with practiced ease. Nothing to worry about. The school counselor called when Sarah was 11. There had been an incident. Sarah had attacked another girl during recess, seemingly without provocation. In the counselor's office, Sarah sat mute, staring at the floor while I tried desperately to understand what was happening to my child. "Sarah, honey, please talk to me," I begged. "Tell me what's wrong." But she wouldn't. She never would. Not to me. The teenage years were worse. Sarah's hatred of me intensified into something cold and calculated. She wouldn't eat meals I prepared. She refused gifts I bought her. On her 16th birthday, I tried to hug her and she shoved me away so hard I fell. "Don't touch me," she screamed, her face contorted with rage. "Don't you ever touch me." Robert pulled her aside that night. I heard their voices through the walls, his low and soothing, hers choked with sobs. When he came to bed, he wrapped his arms around me. "She doesn't mean it," he whispered. "You know, teenagers, everything is drama." I cried myself to sleep that night and many nights after. My husband held me through it all, stroking my hair, assuring me that Sarah would eventually come around. He was my rock, my comfort in the storm. I trusted him completely. That was my greatest mistake. Sarah left for college and never came back. She called Robert regularly, but she wouldn't speak to me. She came home for Christmas her freshman year, but after that, the visits stopped. I sent letters, gifts, cards all returned, unopened. I tried calling, but she blocked my number. I was a ghost to my own daughter. Robert retired at 62. I noticed he seemed anxious about something. He started drinking more, sleeping less. Sometimes I'd wake in the night to find him sitting in the dark, staring at nothing. "What's wrong?" I'd ask. "Nothing," he'd say. "Just getting old." 3 years ago, Robert had a stroke. It was massive, catastrophic. He survived, but he was never the same. His mind began to deteriorate rapidly. The doctors said it was vascular dementia, accelerated by the damage from the stroke. Sarah came to the hospital. It was the first time I'd seen her in over a decade. She was 35 years old, beautiful and successful, and so very far from the little girl who used to dance in our living room. She looked at Robert with something like pity. She looked at me with pure contempt. "Sarah," I reached for her hand. "Please, can we talk?" She pulled away. "There's nothing to say." But there was. There was everything to say. I just didn't know it yet. Robert came home from the hospital, and I became his caretaker. The man who had been my partner for over 40 years was now dependent on me for everything. He couldn't walk without assistance. He couldn't remember what day it was, or sometimes even who I was. But in his confusion, in the deterioration of his mind, the truth began to emerge. It started with small things. He would call me Sarah sometimes, and in those moments his voice would change, become softer, more coaxing. "Come here, Sarah. It's okay. It's our secret." I thought it was just confusion. The doctors had warned me that dementia patients often mixed up people and times. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a Tuesday evening, 3 months ago. Robert had been particularly agitated all day, pacing when he could, muttering to himself. I'd given him his medications and helped him to bed around 9:00 single quotes clock. At midnight, I woke to sounds from his room. I'd installed a baby monitor so I could hear if he needed help during the night. Through the static, I heard him talking. "Sorry, Sarah, I'm so sorry. I know it hurt. I know you hated it. But I couldn't stop. God help me, I couldn't stop." My blood turned to ice. I walked to his room on trembling legs. Robert was sitting up in bed, tears streaming down his face, his hands clutching at the blankets. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He looked at me, but he didn't see me. He saw something else, someone else, some memory playing out behind his failing eyes. "She was so small," he said. "So small and perfect. And Margaret never knew. She never suspected. All those nights she was at work. Couldn't breathe." The room spun around me. "Robert," I managed. "What did you do?" But he was gone again, lost in the fog of his disease. He lay back down and closed his eyes, and within minutes he was snoring softly. I didn't sleep for the rest of that night. The next morning I called Sarah. My hands shook so violently I could barely hold the phone. I had to try 3 times before I successfully dialed her number. Number I'd memorized years ago but had been blocked from using. This time I called from a different phone, a prepaid cell I'd bought at the grocery store just for this purpose. She answered on the 4th ring. "Hello?" Her voice, my daughter's voice, nearly broke me. "Sarah, it's Mom. Please don't hang up." Silence. Long, terrible silence. "Then how did you get this number?" "Sarah, I need to ask you something. It's about your father." I was crying now, tears streaming down my face. "What did he do to you?" More silence. I could hear her breathing, quick and shallow. "Sarah, please. He said something last night. The dementia is confused, and he said things. About you? About when you were little? About nights when I was at work. Stop. Her voice was sharp, cutting. I can't do this. Please, baby. I need to know. I need to understand why I hate you. She laughed, but it was bitter, broken. You really don't know. After all these years, you genuinely don't know. I know something happened. I know your father. I couldn't say it. Couldn't give voice to the horror that was taking shape in my mind. My father raped me. The words came flat, emotionless, like she was reading from a grocery list. Like she'd said them so many times in therapy that they'd lost all meaning, starting when I was 6 years old. Almost every night you worked, for years, until I was 13 and finally grew big enough, strong enough to fight him off. The phone slipped from my hand. I heard it clatter on the floor, heard Sarah's voice, tiny and distant, still talking. I picked it up with nerveless fingers, told myself you had to know, that you must have known and just didn't care. Because how could you not know? How could you live in that house, sleep in that bed with him, and not know what he was doing to me? I didn't, I whispered. Sarah, I swear to God, I didn't know. That's almost worse. Her voice cracked. That's so much worse, Mom, because it means you were there, in the same house, and you were so blind, so trusting, so stupidly in love with him that you never saw. You never protected me. You chose him over me every single day. I didn't choose you, did. Every time I pulled away from you and you just accepted it. Every time I cried and you let him comfort me. Every time I tried to show you something was wrong and you believed his lies instead of investigating. You chose him. I was sobbing now, great heaving sobs that tore through my chest. I'm sorry. Sarah, I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't give me back my childhood. Sorry doesn't undo the nightmares or the therapy or the fact that I can't have a normal relationship because I can't trust anyone. Sorry doesn't? Her voice broke completely. Sorry doesn't make you my mother again. Tell me what to do, I begged. Please tell me how to fix this. You can't fix it. It's been 40 years, Mom. 40 years of carrying this alone. Do you know what that does to a person? Do you have any idea? I thought about Sarah at 7, pulling away from my hugs. Sarah at 9, screaming in the night. Sarah at 16, shoving me away with such violence. All those signs I'd missed, all those cries for help I'd been too blind to see. Why didn't you tell me? Even as I asked, I knew how it sounded. Like I was blaming her. I tried. God, I tried in every way a child knows how. But you were never there. And when you were there, you were so tired, so stressed about work and bills and everything else. And he was so careful, so clever. He told me that if I said anything, you'd die. He said it would kill you and it would be my fault. What was I supposed to do? I was 6 years old. I would have believed you. I would have. Would you? Really? Because he was your husband? Your high school sweetheart. The man you loved more than anything. And I was just a moody kid who didn't like you very much. Who would you have believed? The horrible truth was, I didn't know. I wanted to say I would have believed my daughter, but would I? Would I have been willing to see that kind of evil in the man I'd shared my life with? He's dying, I said finally. The doctors say he has maybe 6 months. Good. The word was cold, final, and I couldn't blame her for it. Sarah, I know I don't deserve anything from you. I know I failed you in every possible way. But I need to tell you that I believe you. And I'm sorry. I'm so desperately sorry. I heard her crying then, soft sobs that sounded like they came from somewhere deep and long buried. I wanted you to know, she said finally. I wanted you to figure it out. Every time I saw you, I was screaming it with every part of me. Look at me. See me. Save me. But you never did. I see you now. It's too late. I know. We sat in silence, connected by technology and separated by decades of pain. What are you going to do? She asked finally. I looked toward Robert's room, where he lay sleeping, peaceful and untroubled by the destruction he'd caused. I don't know, I admitted. I should go to the police. But what would that accomplish now? He's already dying. He doesn't even remember most days. I went to the police. When I was 19, Sarah's voice was quiet. I filed a report, but it had been 6 years and there was no evidence. No proof, just my word against his. They said they couldn't do anything. My heart broke anew. She'd tried to get justice, tried to make someone hear her, and the system had failed her too. I moved him into a nursing home yesterday, I said. I can't look at him. I can't be in the same room with him. I told the staff he's not to have any visitors, and I won't be visiting myself. He should suffer, Sarah said. He should suffer the way he made me suffer. He is suffering. His mind is gone. He doesn't know where he is most days. He calls for me sometimes, confused and scared. I don't answer. Good. He fell silent again. There was so much more to say, but words felt inadequate for the magnitude of what had been lost. Sarah, I said finally, I know I can't undo the past. I know I can't earn forgiveness for something so unforgivable. But if you ever want to talk, if you ever need anything, I'm here. I'll be here for whatever time I have left. I don't know if I can do that, Mom. I don't know if I can let you in. I understand. I'm in therapy. I've been in therapy for 20 years. My therapist says I need to process this with you, but I'm not ready. I might never be ready. That's okay. Whatever you need, however long it takes. Did you love him? The question came suddenly. All those years, did you really love him? I thought about Robert, the young man I'd married, the partner I'd built a life with, the monster I'd never suspected. I loved who I thought he was, but that person never existed. He was a lie from the beginning. Sarah said softly. Yeah, he was. I love you, I told her, the words feeling both inadequate and essential. I know that doesn't matter now, but I need you to know. I love you and I'm sorry I didn't protect you. I know, she whispered. Somewhere buried under all the anger and pain, I know. She hung up then, and I sat holding the phone for a long time afterward. The weeks that followed were the darkest of my life. I visited Robert once more at the nursing home. I needed to look him in the eye, needed to confront him with what I knew. But when I arrived, he didn't recognize me. He thought I was a nurse, asked me when his wife was coming to visit. She's not coming, I told him. She knows what you did. But he just looked confused, frightened, and I realized there would be no reckoning. The man who had destroyed our daughter was already gone, replaced by this empty shell. There would be no justice, no accountability, no moment of acknowledgement or remorse. I left and never went back. Robert died 4 months later. The nursing home called to inform me. I didn't attend the funeral, Sarah, and I agreed on that much. We had him cremated, and I scattered his ashes in a landfill. It seemed fitting. Sarah and I meet for coffee now, once a month. She brings her therapist sometimes. The conversations are painful, halting, full of long silences and tears. We're not rebuilding our relationship. That would be too generous a description. We're excavating the wreckage, trying to understand what was real and what was always broken. She told me more about those years. The details are worse than I could have imagined. How he would come to her room after I left for work. How he would tell her she was special, that this was love, that this was normal. How he would hold her afterward while she cried and tell her that everything was okay. How he would sit at breakfast with us the next morning, smiling and normal. While she sat there dying inside, she told me about the eating disorders, the self-harm, the suicide attempt when she was 15 that I never knew about because Robert convinced the school not to tell me. She's just dramatic, he'd said. Teenage girls and their emotions. Every revelation is another knife in my heart. I'm 68 years old now. And I understand that I will carry this guilt for whatever time I have remaining. I don't ask Sarah for forgiveness because I don't deserve it. I don't try to justify my blindness because there is no justification. I was her mother. My job was to protect her, and I failed. But I show up. Every month I drive 3 hours to her city and we sit in that coffee shop and I listen. I bear witness to her pain. I validate her anger. I answer her questions as honestly as I can, even when the answers make me look like a fool or a failure or both. Last month, as we were leaving, she touched my hand. Just briefly, just for a moment. But it was something. Thank you for coming, she said. It wasn't forgiveness. It might never be forgiveness. But it was acknowledgement. It was a door maybe open just a crack. I don't know if Sarah and I will ever have a real relationship. I don't know if the damage can ever be healed. But I keep showing up, keep listening, keep bearing witness to the truth. I was too blind to see when it mattered most. This is my penance. This is my life now. And if there's a lesson in this horror, it's this. Trust is not the same as vigilance. Love is not the same as protection. Being tired, being busy, being overwhelmed, none of these are excuses for failing to see what's happening in your own home, to your own child. I thought I was building a family. I thought I was doing the responsible thing, working hard, trusting my partner. But I was building a prison for my daughter, and I handed the keys to her jailer. I can never undo that. I can never give Sarah back her childhood, her innocence, her ability to trust. All I can do is sit in that coffee shop once a month and face what my blindness cost. It's not enough. It will never be enough. But it's all I have left to give.